Hello dear children, welcome to today's session. So before beginning this session, let's have a silent prayer. Please close your eyes for a while. Thank you all, welcoming you back. So let's have a recap of what all things we have discussed through our previous video. In the previous video, we mainly focused upon two types of solutions, that is ideal solutions and non-ideal solutions. Non-ideal solutions are again categorized into two, that is showing positive deviation from Raoult's law and the other one showing negative deviation from Raoult's law. These two are very important. The graph also you just study to draw and the conditions which makes them why. Logically we say that they undergo positive deviation. What is the reason behind that? That all things are very important. And the last class we mainly discussed about azeotropes or azeotropic mixtures. They are a specific situation formed, or there is a specific composition of a mixture containing a solute and a solvent, that is binary mixture, contains one solute as well as solvent. For that particular type of solutions, if they show high positive deviations or high negative deviations, that is non-ideal solutions containing a binary mixture having high positive deviation or high negative deviation, those solutions at a particular composition, they form azeotropes. They form azeotropic mixtures at a particular composition. And they are also, these azeotropes are also mainly categorized into two types, minimum boiling azeotropes and maximum boiling azeotropes. Minimum boiling azeotropes are those mixtures having particular composition, that is azeotropic composition, for which it shows high positive deviation from Raoult's law. That is solution showing high positive deviation from Raoult's law forms minimum boiling azeotropes at a particular composition. And the other one, maximum boiling azeotropes, they are formed by non-ideal solutions showing high negative deviations from Raoult's law. These 2 points you have to note it down, because 1 mark question definitely it can be asked from this portion. That is minimum boiling azeotropes are formed by solutions showing high positive deviation, minimum for high positive deviation and maximum for high negative deviation, maximum for negative deviation and minimum for positive deviation. So such sort of solutions form azeotropic mixtures at a specific composition. So the peculiarity of this composition is that, or the peculiarity of this mixture is that at that particular composition at which it forms this azeotrope, if we examine that particular composition containing a component A as well as a B, that is a solute and a solvent, their composition, or we can say concentration, or we can say mole fraction, all are same. Their composition of both A as well as B, or the mole fraction of A and B in the solution, inside the solution, as well as mole fraction of A, both the components A and B in the vapor phase, that is above the solution liquid, above the liquid in the vapor phase also the composition is the same. For example, 95% ethanol in water, that is it has a composition 95:5 in water, as well as its vapor form also it maintains the same composition 95:5. So that is the peculiarity of azeotropic mixtures. So in that case, if both this composition are same, the mixture shows, or both the component shows or exhibits the same boiling point. A and B have the same boiling point, or both of them boil at the same boiling point. So it cannot be separated by fractional distillation. So these are the importance of azeotropes. So go through that, both types of azeotropes with examples you should study. So today we would study another very important topic under this chapter. This is also 100% sure for the exam. So first of all, that is it is regarding a property that is known as colligative property. It is known as colligative. That is, co means together and ligative means binding together. So that is colligative properties. So before I give you an example, just to say what is meant by colligative property. This is a container containing, suppose it is pure water molecules. It's a pure solvent H2O. So these all are H2O molecules. So if we are keeping it in a container, definitely the evaporation is there. At every temperature, the particles will evaporate. And here we can see that these particles, some of the particles will be in the vapor form, and there forms an equilibrium between the particles in the vapor phase and which is going back to the solution. There forms an equilibrium, and that equilibrium vapor pressure is known as the vapor pressure of this pure component. The pressure exerted by the vapors above the liquid at equilibrium, it is known as vapor pressure. It is known as the vapor pressure of this particular liquid. That is the pressure exerted by the molecules of water. In this particular case, the molecules of water in the vapor form, they are constantly moving around and hitting with the walls of the container. So definitely there arises a pressure. Once the equilibrium is reached, if we measure the pressure, that pressure is known as the vapor pressure of this particular liquid in this container. That is the equilibrium. Vapor pressure is known as vapor pressure. And if we are adding, suppose this pure water, if we are adding some common salt, sodium chloride, and stirring it well, we know what happens. The sodium chloride will dissolve in this. Or if we add glucose and stir it well, so in both cases they will dissolve. Here the peculiarity is that the sodium chloride or glucose, they are non-volatile. Non-volatile means they will not vaporize. So if we are adding a non-volatile solute to a volatile solvent, example glucose into water or NaCl, salt into water, in that case only the solvent goes into the vapor form. So here in this case we know that all the surface particles, they are H2O molecules because it is only pure solvent. So the molecules which occupy the surface layer, they are pure solvent molecules. So the vapors also, we know evaporation takes place from the surface because the surface molecules are experiencing less attraction or they are having high surface energy. So they are the one which is going to the vapor phase first at normal temperature. So the surface molecules, they get evaporated in this case. All the surface region is occupied by H2O molecules only. But if we add sodium chloride and mix it well, we know that it becomes a homogeneous solution. And we can see this thick blue circles. It represents the solute, and the other one that represents H2O. So they will push some of this H2O molecules from the surface and they get into that place of the H2O. They occupy the surface, that is the surface area. Some of the surface area is occupied, some of the areas in the surface is occupied by the solvent molecules, as well as the solute also interpenetrate and they push back these water molecules and they occupy the surface. So when compared to this, that is pure solvent, once the solution, this solute is added, we know that some of the surface is occupied by solute particles. Here completely 100% H2O molecules occupies this region. But once we add an impurity or whatever it is, if we add a solute, then definitely some of the places which was occupied by water now is occupied by solute particles or NaCl. So the thing is that we know that the evaporation takes place from the surface. Only the particles occupying the surface has the privilege to go to the vapor phase at that particular temperature. So in this case, if we compare these two cases, here the number of particles of water is less because some of its places has been occupied by this solute. So it is blocking the water particles, isn't it? So only few water molecules are getting chance to go into its vapor form. When compared to these situations, the number of particles of water which is going into the vapor form decreases. Decreases why? Because somebody else takes its position and block it or hinder it from going into vapor phase. So here the sum of the regions being occupied by the solute particles, the number of H2O molecules, the chance of getting into the vapor form decreases. Why? Because this sodium chloride or glucose, we know they are non-volatile, because that means they does not vaporize. They cannot vaporize. So only H2O can go into the vapor form. So the number of particles, you just see the surface, the atmosphere here, this above this water level, we can see that there are a large number of H2O molecules are there at equilibrium. But we compare it with this situation, the number of particles which is going into the vapor phase at equilibrium, or number of particles in the equilibrium is less. So in which case the vapor pressure is high? The vapor pressure is high in the case of pure solvent. So that is the thing. That is, once a solute, a non-volatile solute is added to a solution, one important point to be noted down is that the vapor pressure decreases. What happened to the vapor pressure? Decreases, because the number of particles going into the vapor phase goes on decreasing. Why? Because the sum of the surface is occupied by this non-volatile solute. So the number of molecules which is going into the vapor phase decreases, and hence we can say that the vapor pressure decreases in this case where the solute is added. So if we increase suppose we increase the concentration of the solution, again adding NaCl and stirring it well, then the number of particles of this thick blue circles increases, then number of particles on the top layer also increases, thereby the vapor pressure again decreases. So as the number of particles of this non-volatile solute increases, definitely the vapor pressure also decreases. So vapor pressure, it depends. The lowering of vapor pressure, when compared to the situation here, the vapor pressure is getting lowered. When compared to pure solvent, while adding non-volatile solute, the vapor pressure is getting reduced. So the reduction in vapor pressure is depending on the number of these attackers, or number of these foreign bodies, or we can say here the NaCl molecules which is mixed up. It depends on the number of particles of NaCl present in the solution. If the number of particles of NaCl is increased, then the number of molecules of the solvent going into the vapor phase decreases. So reduction or the lowering of vapor pressure is a property of a solution which is directly proportional to the number of particles of the solute. It depends on the number of particles of the solute. As the number of particles increases, the vapor pressure decreases. Number of particles of the solute, the non-volatile solute. So this sort of properties which depends only on the number of particles of the solute, irrespective of their nature. It doesn't depend on its nature. Suppose we are adding 1 mole of glucose in a beaker containing water, and in another beaker containing the same amount of water, you add 1 mole of NaCl. In one beaker, suppose that here 1 mole of NaCl is added. In this beaker I am adding 1 mole of glucose. Here both cases number of particles is the same, isn't it? Both contains 1 mole. 1 mole means Avogadro, 6.022 into 10 to the power of 23. So in both the cases, that is glucose solution as well as NaCl solution, the number of particles is the same. So the reduction in vapor pressure or the lowering of vapor pressure after adding this glucose or NaCl will be the same. So that sort of properties which depends only on the number of particles and not on their nature. They doesn't bother about which is the thing added, whether it is glucose or NaCl, doesn't bother about that. They depends only on the number of particles. So such sort of properties are known as colligative properties. One of the very important thing coming under this chapter, colligative properties, the properties which depend on the number of solute particles. It depends only on the number, and irrespective doesn't considering the nature, their nature, whether it is glucose or whether it is fructose or whether it is sucrose or whether it is sodium chloride, doesn't bother about that. It depends only on the number and not on the nature related to the total number of particles present in the solution. So there are 4 properties that we are studying under this chapter. 4 colligative properties are there. That's also very important. 4 colligative properties are, first one, the thing we have discussed just now, that is relative lowering of vapor pressure, that we will discuss in detail. Then second one is elevation in boiling point. And the third one is depression in freezing point, and the fourth one is osmotic pressure. These are the four colligative properties, and here these terms are very relevant because if we use this term only, it will become a colligative property, that is relative lowering. Now, only vapor pressure means it doesn't have any connection with colligative property. The thing is that relative lowering of vapor pressure, say colligative property. Not boiling point, but elevation in boiling point is a colligative property. That is how much the boiling point increases. It depends on the number of solute. Whereas simple boiling point will doesn't depend on the. So this is elevation in boiling point. This term is very important. Then depression in freezing point. I will discuss all these things. Then osmotic pressure. These are the four colligative properties we are going to discuss. So first one itself we can take, that is first one, relative lowering of vapor pressure. Just now I have said with this example, that is a relative lowering of vapor pressure. We just with the help of figure, we have seen that that is by adding solute to a pure solvent. By adding solute to a pure solvent, its vapor pressure decreases. Equilibrium vapor pressure decreases. Why? Because the solute is non-volatile, and so when it is mixed with the pure solvent which is volatile, the number of particles occupying the surface, solute molecules also occupy the surface, pushing these water particles which were there. So the number of water particles at the surface decreases. Only these water particles can vaporize. Water particles on the surface can go into the vapor phase. So one considering this number of water particles, here only less number of water particles are there on the surface. So the number of particles going into the vapor phase decreases when compared to this situation. So this is known as a relative lowering of vapor pressure. So we can arrive at a mathematical formula or mathematical equation for this relative lowering of vapor pressure. For a solution containing a non-volatile solute, here two components are there. One is a non-volatile solute and the other one is a volatile solvent. Usually for solute we are using the 2. We are using to represent a solute, we use either 2 or B. For solvent, so first of all we are taking the solvent, then we add a sodium chloride. So solvent will be given number 1 or alphabet A, capital A is used. Or for the solute, normally we are using either 2 or capital letter B. Everywhere the representation will be either 1 or A and 2 or B for solvent and solute respectively. So just if non-volatile solvent 1 and solute 2, volatile solvent 1 and non-volatile solute 2. So according to Raoult's law, we have Raoult's law we studied last day. That is, Raoult's law states that the partial vapor pressure is directly proportional to mole fraction of that component. So we can say that the partial vapor pressure is due to solvent only. Solute cannot vaporize. Solute cannot go into the vapor form. So only the pressure above this liquid is due to this solvent molecule H2 only. In that case we discussed only H2 can go into the vapor form. So the pressure is due to the component 1 only. So the partial pressure due to A is directly proportional to mole fraction of that component, that is X1. If you use the proportionality sign, then if just converting it into equal to, we are multiplying it with a constant, that also we have discussed last day. That is P1 is equal to X1 into P10, where P10 is the mole fraction of the pure component. That is the only water is there. We have given two situations, isn't it? One where the pure solvent water. So that vapor pressure is known as P10. The vapor pressure of the pure water is known as P10. So this is the Raoult's law. And we know that the reduction in vapor pressure of the solvent, while adding solute, the vapor pressure of the solvent decreases. So the reduction, initially only water was there, isn't it? It was a pure beaker containing water only, H2 only. While we are adding solute, what happens is that the vapor pressure, here only water is there. So this is what is known as P10. The vapor pressure, if you are measuring this pressure by using a manometer, the pressure of this liquid is known as P10, the vapor pressure of the pure solvent. Here after adding the solute, we are again measuring, then P1 be the vapor pressure. P1 is the vapor pressure of the solution. So, the decrease in lowering of vapor pressure is initial pressure P10 minus the pressure now after adding solute, that is P1. That is, we can represent the change as delta P1 is equal to P10. That is the vapor pressure of the pure water minus the vapor pressure after adding solute, which is equal to P10 minus P10 into X1, because P10 is equal to X1 into P10. So, substituting P1 is equal to X1 P10 in this equation, we get P10 minus P1 is equal to P10 X1. That is according to Raoult's law. P1 is equal to P10 X1. So, we are substituting for P1 that value. Then we are taking, since P10 is the common factor, we are taking P10 outside. So, in the bracket it will be P10 into 1 minus X1. And we know that for any particular solution, suppose it contains two components, 1 and 2, then the mole fraction of both the components, if we add together, we will get 1. How many components are there? You add the mole fraction of all the components, it will give value 1. Here only two components, 1 and 2. So, mole fraction of x1, one component x1 and the other component is x2. So, x1 plus x2 is equal to 1, or x2 is equal to 1 minus x1. So, instead of 1 minus x1 in this equation, we can substitute x2. Why? Because x2 is equal to 1 minus x1. So, removing this 1 minus x1, for this term we can substitute x2. So, delta P1 is equal to P10 into x2. This is very important. Or we can say that delta P1, we just here bringing this term down, that is, we will get delta P1 by P10 is equal to x2. Delta, just rearranging this equation, delta P1 by P10 is equal to x2. Delta P1 is the lowering of vapor pressure. Delta P1 is known as how much vapor pressure is lowered. Initially it was P10, then it became P1. So, P10 minus P1 is known as delta P1. That is known as lowering of vapor pressure divided by initial pressure, that is P10, that is known as a relative, that is relating to the initial pressure, that is known as relative lowering of vapor pressure. Relative lowering of vapor pressure, delta P1 by P10, this both these terms together we are calling it as relative, this element is known as relative lowering of vapor pressure, which is equal to delta P1 can be written as P10 minus P1 by P10, which is equal to x2. So, in other words, we can say that relative lowering of vapor pressure is equal to mole fraction of the solute. Hope you understood this thing. That is, relative lowering of vapor pressure is equal to mole fraction of the solute. That is, how much the vapor pressure is getting lowered, that depends directly on the number of particles in the solute present in the solution, that is non-volatile solute present in the solution. So, it's very important that delta P1 is equal to initial pressure P10 minus P1, which is equal to P10 into 1 minus x1. We know x2 is equal to 1 minus x1. So, for substituting 1 minus x1, we can substitute x2, or delta P1 by P10 is equal to x2. So, go through this very important thing. Then, in a solution, suppose instead of one solute, so many non-volatile solutes are added. Sodium chloride, sugar, etc. are added. So, in that case, X2 means it is the mole fraction of all the components in the solute as added as the solute. That is, in a solution containing several non-volatile solutes, so lowering of vapor pressure depends on the sum of the mole fractions of different solutes. So, in this case, X2 is equal to sum of the mole fractions of all the solutes, not the solvent, but the sum of the mole fractions of all the solutes. Hope it is clear. So, then again one more form, that is this is delta P1 by P, or P10 minus P1 by P1 is equal to X2, isn't it, that we got. So, X2 means mole fraction. What is mole fraction? It is the number of particles of that component divided by total number of particles. So, X2 is equal to N2 all divided by N1 plus N2. So, substitute for X2. We know relative lowering of vapor pressure P10 minus P1 all divided, it's not here, it's all divided by P1 is equal to N2 all divided by N1 plus N2. Here N1 and N2 are the number of moles of solute and solvent respectively. Then N2 is equal to, N2 is the number of moles, is equal to mass in grams divided by molar mass. We know number of moles is equal to mass in grams divided by molar mass. Mass in grams is W2 divided by molar mass is M2 and N1 W1 by M1. So therefore N2 by N1 is equal to W2 by M2 divided by W1 by M1. So if we just multiply by the reciprocal, we will get W2 into M1 divided by W1 into M2. For dilute solution, so we have arrived at another form, that is delta P1 or P10 minus P1 by P1 is equal to X2. Instead of X2, we are going to substitute N2 divided by N1 plus N2. X2 is equal to N2 divided by N1 plus N2. N2 is equal to W2 by M2, that we know. Then N1 is equal to W1 by M1. So if you are substituting N2 by N1, we are giving W2 by M2, M1 divided by W1 by M2. So X2 is equal to X2 is equal to N2 whole divided by N1 plus N2. For dilute solutions, if the solution is very dilute, that means if we are adding salt to water and we say that taste only, a little salty taste only is there. So we know that the concentration of sugar is very less in that, or the amount of number of particles of sugar is very less when compared to the number of particles of water. That means N2 is the number of particles of the solute. If it is very less, that is for dilute solutions, the number of particles of the solute when compared to number of particles of the solvent is very less. So in that case, N1 plus N2 is equal to, we can write N1 itself. We can neglect the value of N2 because it is not something when compared to the bigger value of N1, 1000, like that. So this we can write it as instead of X2, we can write it as N2 by N1 for dilute solutions. So in that case, dilute solutions, for dilute solutions, N2 is very less when compared to N1. That is, if N2 is equal to 0.000001 mole, and when N1 is equal to 1000, then 1000 plus 0.0001 mole is equal to 1000.0001 mole. So we can write it as 1000 itself. So that's why we are taking N2 by N1 plus N2 is equal to N2 by N1. Relative lowering of vapor pressure, P10 minus P1 all divided by P10 is equal to N2 by N1, or we can say P10 minus P1 by P10 is equal to N2 by N1 is W2 into M1 divided by W1 into M2, that we got from these things, we know N2 and N1. So substituting N2 by N1, we will arrive at this equation. So this is the final equation we are using for doing some numericals. So just by heart these things are relative lowering of vapor pressure. What is that term? This one. Relative lowering, that is P10 minus P1 whole divided by P10. P10 minus P1 is equal to delta P1 whole divided by P10 is equal to W2 into M1 whole divided by W1 into M2. Here 2, this subscript 2 stands for solute and subscript 1 stands for solvent, because I just remind that first we take a solvent, then we are adding solute. So first component we are taking it as, every time while we are writing the equations, the 1 stands for solvent and 2 stands for solute. So here it is the mass of solute into molar mass of solvent whole divided by molar mass of solute into mass of solvent. Delta P1 by P10 or P10 minus P1 by P10 is equal to W2 into M1 divided by W1 into M2. So just derive this equation and put in a box, highlighted box, you put this equation. For the exam, one problem definitely will come based on this colligative property. So using this colligative we can find out the molar mass. If some other things are known, we can find out the molar mass of the solute. So this is one of the colligative property, relative lowering of vapor pressure. Hope you understood. So next colligative property is elevation of boiling point. Before that, we shall discuss what is meant by boiling point. Elevation. Elevation means increase, isn't it? So how does this increase in boiling point happens? when a pure solvent, if you are adding a non-volatile solute, it says that the boiling point is elevated. Or for example, the pure water, the boiling point is 100 degrees Celsius. If you add salt or sugar, its boiling point increases. Why? That is, salt solution is having higher boiling point than pure water. So what is the reason? So first just we can see what is the relationship between vapor pressure and boiling, and what is meant by boiling. Hope you know what is boiling, and just through this video we can see what is meant by boiling. I'll explain. Suppose you are taking some water in a beaker, and we know that atmosphere contains air molecules, nitrogen, oxygen, etc. So if we just take the layer, that is while we are coming down towards the earth, the troposphere, there is a huge accumulation of air particles because of gravity. The lower layer is thickly packed with air. So this white represents the air particles, and here this blue represents the water in a vessel. So what happens, this air exerts pressure on this water, isn't it? Because it is like a blanket above this water. So this definitely it will exert a pressure down, and what happens, this water particles in the surface, they try to evaporate, and when this vapor pressure, so when it starts boiling, when the pressure exerted by the vapor above the vaporizing vapors exerts pressure, and the atmospheric pressure, when they become equal, we say it starts boiling. So what happens, as the temperature increases, the particles, they move apart, and the particles, when this vapor pressure becomes equal to the atmospheric pressure, what happens, this molecule from the inside, that is this inner part, which is getting, as a result, the kinetic energy increases, and they move away from each other, and these particles from inside also will start boiling, or will start pushing upwards and escape as gas particles. That is why we see that at the boiling point we can see the bubbles, water vapor inside, that also coming out as vapor, and they escape out. They move out in the form of vapor. So when it says liquid boils, when its the vapor pressure becomes equal to the atmospheric pressure, it starts boiling. When the vapor pressure of a liquid equals its atmospheric pressure, at that temperature the liquid starts boiling. So that is meant by boiling point. It's clear what is boiling point. This is the temperature at which the vapor pressure of a liquid becomes equal to its vapor pressure becomes equal to its atmospheric pressure. We know that if a container is kept open, we know there are air particles around. Here these air particles are exerting pressure, that is known as what we call it as atmospheric pressure. And at the sea level, atmospheric pressure is taken as 1 atmosphere. So here this 1 atmosphere, that is, they are pushing these vapors, they are trying to push these vapors downwards. So they try, these particles in the surface, they try to evaporate into the vapor form. At that time they are exerting pressure from upwards. So there is a push and pull. Here there is a push, and here the water particles are pulling it upwards. So in that case, suppose when this number of particles, the vapor is just strong enough, the vapor pressure is strong enough to tackle this atmospheric pressure. So at that point, the vapor pressure becomes equal to atmospheric pressure. It's like a tug of war. So this, when the vapor pressure becomes equal to atmospheric pressure, these particles inside, as the vapors are moving out, and when they become stronger, they will try to push upwards. So these particles inside the bulk also, they will become vaporized, and they try to pull outwards as vapors. And we say that these bubbles, we can see the bubbles start coming out from the inner side also. Then we say that this liquid started boiling, and that temperature at which this vapor pressure becomes equal to the atmospheric pressure is known as boiling point of a liquid. The temperature at which the vapor pressure of a liquid becomes equal to its boiling point of a liquid is the temperature at which the vapor pressure of the liquid becomes equal to its atmospheric pressure. As the vapor pressure of a solution containing a non-volatile solute, then we take the case of a non-volatile solute. You can see that in the case of a suppose here pure solvent, the vapor pressure is high. We have discussed the vapor pressure is high for a pure solvent. When non-volatile solute is added, the number of vapor molecules is getting decreased or the vapor pressure is less. So which will boil faster, whether the pure solvent or this one where this solute is added non-volatile? Here the vapor pressure is more, here the vapor pressure is less. Vapor pressure is inversely proportional to boiling point. If the vapor pressure is high, then in order to reach the boiling point, that is the pressure exerted by the atmosphere, it is easy for them to reach this level. Here the vapor pressure is high. So to reach the boiling point, it is easy. That means less temperature is required for making the boil. If the vapor pressure is high, less temperature is required to make this liquid boiling. So we can say that vapor pressure is inversely proportional to boiling point. And here in this case the vapor pressure is less because the particles of in the vapor form is less. So the pressure exerted is also less. So in this case the vapor pressure here, suppose this is the vapor pressure, and in this case vapor pressure is less. So in order to reach this atmospheric pressure, it has to pass this much, isn't it? The vapor pressure has to be increased this much level. So this much temperature is to be applied for this particular solution to get boiled. So the temperature required is high, or we can say boiling point is high if a non-volatile solute is added to a pure solvent. That is known as elevation in boiling point. That is, for it to a pure solvent which is volatile, if you are adding a non-volatile solute, definitely its boiling point increases. That is why we say that if you are boiling 100% pure water that is containing H2 only, its boiling point is 100 degrees Celsius, but we are adding suppose some salt or sugar into it, and again we keep it for boiling, then it will boil at a higher temperature than that of the pure solvent. So that is elevation in boiling point. Next is our intention is to represent it in a graphical form, and we have to arrive at a mathematical equation. So this is the vapor pressure temperature curve for a pure solvent. As the temperature increases, vapor pressure increases in this manner for pure solvent, that is pure water. Then into that pure water I added some non-volatile solute. Again I have plotted the vapor pressure temperature curve. We know that the solution containing non-volatile solute, the vapor pressure is less. We have seen, isn't it? The one we add salt or sugar, the vapor pressure will be less than that of the pure water. So definitely for the solution the curve will be in the lower region than that of the pure solvent. So in that case, suppose this is this pressure is 1 atmospheric pressure. In this scale, this is suppose this is the 1 atmospheric pressure, and we know that atmospheric pressure is 1 atmosphere or 1.013 bar. That is the normal atmospheric pressure. So when the vapor pressure becomes equal to, for our vapor, when the vapor pressure becomes equal to 1 atmosphere, then that temperature is known as boiling point of that liquid. The temperature corresponding to 1 atmospheric pressure is known as boiling point. So you check this graph, we can see that for the pure solvent, this is the solvent graph. So this is the temperature at which the vapor pressure becomes equal to 1 atmosphere. Their temperature is TB0. 0 stands for pure solvent. So B is the TB0 is the vapor pressure of the pure solvent, and TB be the vapor pressure of the solution. Let TB be the vapor pressure of the solution. That is here 1 atmosphere. The temperature corresponding to this is TB. So TB. So first it was TB0 when it was pure solvent. When we add some non-volatile solute, it boils at this temperature, that is higher than TB0. From this graph we can see that TB is higher than TB0. That's important, this graph. So we can write this delta TB is equal to TB0. Here there is a minus sign. TB0 delta TB is equal to TB0 minus TB. This is wrong. Delta, just avoid this. Delta TB is equal to, it is directly proportional to, that is elevation in boiling point. It is directly proportional to mole fraction, that is the concentration. Delta TB, it is experimentally proved that this increase in boiling point or elevation in boiling point, delta TB, which is equal to TB0 minus TB, that is known as delta TB, is equal to KB into M, where M is the concentration. Concentration means in terms of molality. Molality we know. It's a way of expressing the concentration. Molality is equal to number of moles of solute divided by mass of solvent in kilogram, that we studied. So delta TB is directly proportional to molality, or we can write delta TB is equal to Kb into M. Where Kb, this is very important, Kb is the molar elevation constant. Kb is known as molar elevation constant or ebullioscopic constant. Molecular mass can be found out, that is delta TB is equal to Kb into M. Molarity is equal to number of moles of solute divided by mass of solvent in kilogram. Number of moles of solute is Nb. Nb is equal to Wb by Mb. The mass of solvent in kilogram is Wa. So delta TB is equal to Kb into M. M is the molarity. Molarity is equal to number of moles of solute. Number of moles is equal to given mass by molar mass. Given mass is Wb by Mb. Divided by mass of solvent. Solvent is Wa in gram, that is into 1000. So that is delta TB is equal to Kb into Wb into 1000 divided by Mb into Wa. That is, instead of Mb we can substitute this term. Therefore, Mb is equal to, rearranging this equation, molar mass of solute can be found out. Mb is equal to Kb into Wb into 1000 divided by Wa into delta TB, where Kb is known as, just remind this term, this constant is known as molar elevation constant or ebullioscopic constant. So that's about this. Kb has a unit Kelvin kilogram per mole, or Kelvin per molarity, molarity or Kelvin kilogram per mole. So these are the things we are discussing under elevation in boiling point. So two colligative properties we have discussed today. One is, I just take down the questions. The last week also I forgot to give the questions. What are azeotrophs? Which are the two types of azeotrophs? Write down the peculiarities of these azeotrophs with examples. Then today's question, what are colligative properties? With equation, mathematical form, you just describe what is relative lowering of vapor pressure. Then the next question, that is what is elevation in boiling point, explain. For a particular solution in which is pure solvent, to a pure solvent, if you are adding a non-volatile solute, what is the elevation in boiling point, derive its mathematical form. So these are the things we have discussed today. So what is colligative property? The properties which depends only on the number of particles and not on their nature are known as colligative properties. Two colligative properties we discussed today. Next two we will be discussing in the next video. So elevation in boiling point as well as relative lowering of vapor pressure. Relative lowering of vapor pressure. That is, vapor pressure decreases when non-volatile solute is added to a pure solvent. So the relative lowering of vapor pressure is equal to mole fraction of solute X2, and instead of X2 we have written the other form, that is N2 by N1. N2 is equal to W2 by M2 divided by W1 by M1. Rearranging we will get the ultimate equation. And for this boiling point also it increases, because vapor pressure decreases means boiling point increases. They are inversely proportional. So elevation in boiling point, also we arrived at an equation, delta TB is equal to, this equation delta TB is equal to Kb into Wb into 1000 by Mb into Wa. That's also very important, where Kb is known as molar elevation constant or ebullioscopic constant. So go through this portions clearly. Just read the textbook also, because each and every line is important. Concept, make it clear. Any doubt, just ask. So go through this, do your homework. Thank you. Have a nice day.